Welcome to the Proven Podcast, where it does not matter what you think, only what you can prove. Our guest today, Andrew, the digital marketing strategist who developed the impact with profit methodology, has a proven success. Scaling requires more than just throwing money at Facebook ads. It demands a conscious strategy, relentless testing, and connecting with every campaign to your bottom line. The show starts now.
Today, we're going to talk about the idea that there's all these ways to scale with Facebook ads or any of that, but we never talk about being conscious enough about how to create your ads, to create your campaigns that are driven on both impact and going to create profit. And this is why Andrew is here. So Andrew, walk me through your process. Welcome to the show. Let's get into it.
Hey, Charles. Well, what I like to say is our unique way we approach digital marketing is our impact with profit methodology. We came up with this a few years ago because we saw some gaps in how marketing agencies, marketing departments were approaching digital marketing. And so we like to focus on conscious creatives. So are you creating, copy and design that really puts the individual in the hero spot versus the company is the hero and the guru? That's one element in making sure all the user experience is very up to speed. I was just auditing a website for my friend's business, one of his competitors. I went on it. It was loading slow. It looked like it was built in 1995. It had about 300 testimonials on it. It had one of those like loud shouting, buy now style buttons. And that's just in fly with digital marketing in 2024. And I see so many, copywriters, funnel builders who had funnels that were successful in 2010. And they keep on trying to rinse and repeat that 14 years down the line. And that's just not how the world works anymore. So that's the creative element of this, rapid prototyping. So I hate it when people want to just launch, a few creatives, few copy, few targeting and set it and forget it like it's a billboard. The advantage of digital marketing is that you can test so many different elements of your campaign and really figure out the bottleneck of what's stopping conversions from happening for your organization. And then lastly, is connecting marketing to a P&L statement. So how does marketing actually help to grow a business? Because any CEO who you talk to is not going to care about your click-through rate, your impressions, reach. Is this actually helping me generate highly qualified leads? And are those leads becoming customers of mine?
I love that you went in and you talked about the stuff about time. Now, hey, if it worked 10 years ago, that's adorable. We don't live in that world. We always talk about what have you done today? I also love that you talked about, getting likes, getting followers and clicks. It's adorable. But how does it affect the bottom line? No one's in here just to create a relationship. We're just going to talk to people and they're going to come to our site. No, that's not the world we live. It's about a bottom line. If you're going to talk about scaling and they're going to do these things in a very effective way, that there's very specific plans. So can you give me an example of the streaming billboards and funnels that were there, years ago? Good God. That are kind of like as soon as you see it, like the top 3 mistakes, you're like, just don't do this. When it comes to it, these are the 3 things you see all the time that it'll just save people. Just don't do these 3 things. And then we can get into very specific when we talk about creating impact and creating profit, going through, kind of the methodology. Like, hey, guys, if you never interact with Andrew ever again, do this. So, first off, what are the 3 big mistakes that people are just, good God, why are you doing it?
I'm going to ad-lib a few in here. So if I don't get around to 3, remind me. So, and I'll give some recent examples of what I've seen. So one is a project of ours where they had a prior advertising consultant on it, and chatting with the CEO, catching up with him, hearing what's going on. And he was super pissed off because he was not getting reporting from this individual. So getting your data, getting your reporting organized is a must in digital marketing. If you think just sending an email to the CEO saying like your campaign was good or I spent this, this happened, sure, they know, money's hopefully coming back in, but we're digital marketers and we need providing much more in-depth reporting to clients or, in-house, whatever that dynamic looks like.
What tools are you using for that? Like, do you have ones that you specifically enjoy better than other ones when it comes to doing that reporting so you can give that report properly to it? Like, which ones do you rely on?
So we do a lot of Microsoft Excel. We're a lot of hand-to-hand combat with that. So we have all these custom formulas and everything that we built for years, which is how we populate our data into that. So we not only produce a report for clients, but then we send a weekly breakdown analyzing, everything that we're working on with not only the data, but then our color commentary, like we're Pat McAfee, breaking down everything that's going on. We also include a Loom video explaining that, and we have a weekly call with all of our clients to hash out their campaigns and talk face to face.
This is one of the things you and I have in common. The combination of whatever you said also connected to a Loom video. Looms are so mission critical. You can rapid fire them really fast and it gets over there and it saves so much time. Also, I get to cheat a little bit here and take a little bit of a break from the podcast and know that you also have an Excel spreadsheet with your misses because you're expecting a little one very soon. So I'm cheating here and saying mazel tov. I'm exceptionally happy for you. I'm glad that she's mapped everything out. Sorry, back to the podcast here.
I thought that was going to be
everything here.
Thank you. I thought that was going to be a sponsorship commercial. I didn't know where we were going with that.
Not at all. I don't just, me. I'm just completely transparent. All right. So Excel, Loom, those are things, getting the things. So that's one example. What is another thing, that mistakes that people aren't doing other than not getting data and not getting specific reports?
I would say another big thing is forcing Facebook ads as the first advertising medium. So we've been around since 2012. Back then, Facebook was cool. People loved Mark Zuckerberg. He was a whiz kid. Public perception as Facebook has changed. Yeah, it's swapped on its head. iOS 14 happened. Russia hacking or whatever was going on with that. Cambridge Analytica. There's just been so much going on with Facebook over the years that it's not the, just click a button and results happen, which is what it was feeling like for years from, 13 to 20 or whatever that time horizon looked like. So we really want to work with a brand and figure out what advertising medium actually makes sense for them. And in some cases, Facebook ads don't make sense. We just started working with a B2B SaaS organization who has an AI product, and Facebook ads does not make sense in this scenario to get in front of senior vice presidents or presidents of organizations, I believe is our avatar. We're going a much different route to get in touch with them between some LinkedIn outreach initiatives, cold email. We're advocating to do a podcast actually as well for that organization. And we think that's a better way to get in front of presidents of organizations. We're not talking about like your mom and pop. We're trying to get in front of presidents of like Fortune 500 companies. So we're very much meeting them where they're at and where their avatar is.
Let me kind of rapid fire some industries, and you can kind of tell, hey, yes, no, yes, and see if that kind of fits in. So if you're selling some sort of goods online, you're selling some sort of like Amazon fulfillment type of thing, where would you kind of say, hey, this is where you kind of want to look versus not here if you're trying to do something like that?
Well, I would say in general, Facebook is great in B2C environments. When you're getting into B2B, that's where the question can arise. And I had to give this caveat. So this is a long-winded way for me to answer your question, is that I had a friend who worked at a B2B SaaS company, and they'd split tested all the platforms at once. The best results came through Instagram. So at the end of the day, you have to put it out and test and see what happens. And I don't know the specifics of why Instagram was their best advertising medium, but it beat out Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and YouTube through their split testing.
You have a platform that you've seen just universally that has the best ROI, or is it just so unique based on the type of industry that you're playing?
B2C, Facebook, for sure. Everything else is so specific to that organization and what they've going on. And also, when you think about another platform, there's other things to think about. For instance, keyword volume. Is there even a keyword volume level? And are people actively searching for that? So if you have a coaching product, for instance, that might not be something someone is seeking out via a Google AdWords campaign, versus we work with this Italian retreat center. And the keyword volume for like fancy yoga retreat Europe is out of control. So Google does great with them. And that was actually where we started our campaigns.
So it is phenomenally different, but you have to test it. And what tools and what are the methodologies that, again, these are people who want to scale their businesses. They want to get to that next level. These aren't people just starting. The people who listening to this are scaling. What are some of the tools or some of the ways that you have proven that you can test? And I will go back to one more example that don't do, but I want to make sure we don't lose this. If you're testing, what are some of the tools that you're like, this works really well, this doesn't work really well? We've had really good experience with this versus that when it comes to testing your products.
In terms of software that you could use to run this split test, that would be a better question for some of our advertisers of the specific software that we're using. Let me bring it back to more of variations of creatives. That would be great. So we'll deploy, depending on the ad spend budget, which is going to influence how many creatives you'll deploy. So let's say it's a first month of split testing. You're doing 3,000 to 5,000 per month. We would probably recommend a combination of 8 variations of copy, and then 8 variations of design, motion animated GIFs, video for that campaign. When you have a much higher ad spend budget, that's when you need to really, increase the number of creatives that you're going to be split testing and deploying.
By default, you want to start with at least 8 different variants of that ad copy.
In that 3 to 5K per month ad spend budget, that's what a lot of our campaigns look like.
Love it. All right. So we've got 2 mistakes. Let's get back to the third mistake. What is the third mistake that you find that people run into just all the time?
Unrealistic expectations. I was not on this call, but I got a debrief earlier this afternoon of someone on their team. We have brought down their webinar CPL from 15 to 250 this in Q1. He thinks a webinar CPL in a Facebook advertising campaign should be below $1. Well, that's what we said as well. He spoke very enthusiastically about how that's realistic. And I don't know if he worked for Tony Robbins and that what Tony Robbins pulls off, but completely unrealistic expectation of what's possible in each type. And I'll break this down more for Facebook. Depending on the type of lead generation campaign you're running, the CPL is going to vary. So if you're doing a quiz campaign, under $1 is probably possible. With that, you're going to get a high volume, but people do quizzes all the time and they just take it and leave. A webinar campaign is a much higher call to action for an individual, and it's a much bigger commitment to, put on your calendar, show up for 45 minutes, which is why you're going to have a higher CPL. So we're thinking $5 to $7 for a webinar CPL is pretty solid in 2024.
Solid.
Under $1 is completely ridiculous. Never going to happen.
It's just, you're, and I love when people are like, well, Tony Robbins can do it. I'm like, are you Tony Robbins? No, and also I think it's really important where people are watching that, when we're looking at the CPLs, again, this doesn't matter. It's about impact to profit to your bottom line. That's all that matters. Look at your P&Ls, your profit and loss statements. How is this extra? Are you generating income for this? And I think that goes into where, we've got the mistakes, but your focus isn't on, hey, am I lowering this to the lowest cost, or am I getting the best exposure? You're one of the things I love about you is like, am I increasing my bottom line? Period. Or how are we helping you earn more money so you can scale your business? So now that we know the 3 things that are just don't do that, which the last one's have been shocking. There's no business I've ever worked in that they have unrealistic expectations. Shocking. Now that to do that, if they want to scale and they want to, obviously help out their bottom line, what are some of the things and what is your process that you go through that you found that works just religiously?
The impact with profit methodology, or just in general? I'm going to address that, but also talk through what our 3 phases of running a campaign looks like, which ties into the impact with profit methodology. So we made a huge shift in our business model in 2021. So 2021 was when iOS 14 happened. It's when King Kong and Godzilla, Facebook and Apple started fighting each other. And we were just did you like that metaphor?
But yeah, I've heard that before, but now it's going to stick. I'm stuck with that now forever. Thank you. As another one of the things.
We were just the Facebook advertising team before iOS 14. So iOS 14 was happening, and we thought we might be out of business in 6 months. There was about a 6-month window of a warning. So we decided to shift the business model to, 1, hire a team of fractional chief marketing officers to start our client projects. and then build up our back-end services so we can support clients in a bigger variety of ways within digital marketing. So the phase one with us is consulting with a fractional chief marketing officer. We did that because I love advertisers. They're our core competency of our business model. They're also not the right person to think holistically about an entire business. They're also usually not the right person to feel the wrath of a CEO who's pissed that you missed your financial numbers. So we want that fractional CMO. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. This is why when people come in all the time and they're like, well, my CFO is telling this, or my bookkeeper is telling me this. I'm like, your bookkeeper doesn't make decisions about where we're going with the company. It just tells me what's going on, but do not let him do that. It's kind of like letting your gardener decide what you're going to eat. It's not that it's not a good gardener. It's a phenomenal gardener. Love what he does. My landscape looks amazing. I appreciate you for taking care of everything, but you're not going to decide what goes into my body. And then vice versa. I'm not going to let the guy who makes my meals decide how my lawn's going to look. So it's no offense, and this is important. I know because you gave a little disclaimer going, I love marketers. Yes, it's important when you're scaling or hiring or doing anything to stay in your lane. You got a lane, know your lane, stay in your lane, double down on your strengths, outsource your weaknesses. It's just a huge thing. Get ego out of the way. I think it's the biggest problem I run into whenever I'm scaling people's companies when I'm brought in. It's the owner. They think this is my baby or I know everything. That's the everything. I'm like, you don't. You do. My favorite example of this is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said, as long as I'm alive, we're never going to do an iPad mini. We're never selling them. They're never going to take off. He released the iPad mini, and now they sell like crazy, and people are dying. So, sorry, even Steve Jobs. Anyway, just wanted to input on that one because people don't get it. He's not picking on marketers. Just stay in your lane. Hire people who decide to do this, X. Don't expect them to do Y. Sorry.
And a lot of times business owners or marketing departments don't understand their data. So it's impossible to scale when you don't understand your numbers. So the fractional CMO in phase one is thinking holistically about really the entire business model and what role marketing has. So doing historical data gathering, analysis, understanding the funnel, the Facebook ad campaigns, the messaging, the branding, the avatar, all of those things, that financial forecasting, go-to-market plans. And then we come up with a new go-to-market plan for an organization. So within that, we have, the P&L statement. That's part of that. The split testing recommendations are part of that. And then the creatives as well. And phase two for us is overhauling creatives. This is super important in a post-iOS 14 world. Before iOS 14, a lot of advertising success was based upon your targeting and just pixeling and, following people around the internet until infinity. That's no longer an option because of iOS 14 and people opting out. So creatives are super important. And we don't want to pass that. It's like, have you, what's his, Peter Thiel? We don't want to have the Peter Thiel approach to branding. I don't know if you've ever heard that inside joke. It's probably not appropriate for this, but he doesn't.
Yeah, we'll probably get out with that. We'll do it after recording. We'll do it in the private. We'll leave poor Peter alone.
So we want to make sure you're having all the right creatives deployed, not only in your advertising campaign, the copy, the design, the video, but making sure your back-end sales funnel is actually going to nurture those leads up to the point of sale. And whether that's, a B2C business, that's a completely, virtual checkout process via Stripe, PayPal, whatever, or if they're actually being handed off to a sales rep and making sure that's a smooth process. And then for us, phase three is when we actually start running our marketing campaigns. And whether that's, advertising on Facebook, YouTube, Google, wherever that is. There are instances with B2B organizations where we'll do LinkedIn outreach or cold email outreach campaigns. And then from there, we're aligned on goals. We're running the marketing campaigns and, let's run our split testing and start scaling.
I like that because you have all these books, and I was just going through it. I was boxing up the things, and I had all the books I got from Russell Brunson years and years ago about how to do. There are all these funnel books. I'm like, no, they're so adorable. It's kind of like looking at a yearbook that I had when I was in high school. And I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't work anymore. Things are changing so radically and so impressively. I remember I was sitting down at an event and I was getting in an argument with somebody. They're like, no, but the iOS dominates the market. That is most iOS, there's more iOS phones than there are Android phones. And I was like, you might want to double check your data. because things have changed. We have this ballgame where just things aren't the way they used to be. So I love that you've taken this approach of going, hey, there was this way, and then King Kong and Godzilla showed up, and things radically changed. All right, so we understand what mistakes people are doing. We understand that things have started to change, and there's a specific 3-phase process. And I love that your process doesn't start with, all right, let's just run a bunch of Facebook ads and spray and play and hope that the pixel and we just haunt people and become stalkers, which I know this is a surprise. That doesn't work anymore. So if you guys are trying to do that and you're trying to scale, stop. So let's talk about what does create it. Let's talk about does create a profit, and let's talk about what does affect it. So walk me through that and say, okay, if people are sitting here right now going, all right, I get it. Andrew knows what he's talking about. I get that I made some of these mistakes, which hopefully you did not make the third one. That's embarrassing. But hopefully you're in a situation where like, okay, what do I need to do? What are things that I can do right now that I can, pull over, take notes and say, okay, these are things that I need to do right now that I can do before I move to the next step, be it, start stalking you and bothering you and your team. So what are the things they can do now?
I'll just shout out a few. So one of them is making sure you have your tracking ecosystem set up correctly. We had a previous client last year who had, what were they in? They were in like WordPress, and then they were in ClickFunnels. They were in Go High Level. I think they might have had 5 different CRM tracking ecosystems. It was a complete nightmare. So it was actually impossible for us to run any advertising campaign until they cleaned that up.
So when you were doing that and they switched over, what are the things that you took them to? We were like, all right, how do we clean this up? What is the process that you do to help them clean that up? Do you have any recommendations of things that they could do?
This was too much for us, so we said, you need to figure this out yourself.
I love that. Because people understand, like, oh, well, he's going to give me this advice. Sometimes the best advice you could do is outsource that. I'm the king of outsourcing. I don't outsource everything because I don't need a full-time CEO. I don't need a full-time CFO. I don't need a full-time CMO. There are times where I just need a fractional person to come in, fix this, and get out of the way. It's just this per diem type of work. We used to do this all the time when I worked at hospice. You don't always need a full-time nurse. Sometimes you just have them that they're per diem as needed. So it just it is what it is. Now, going back to the fact that you're about to have a little one, you do need a full-time nanny, a part-time nanny, a night nanny, a nighttime nanny. So you need everything. I'm just saying. So you got to make a bunch more money. So you have a staff of at least 70 to 80,000 people helping you out at all times. All right. So back to the next thing. All right. So you're organizing data. What next?
So getting the tracking ecosystem all figured out, that's a super important thing. Let me even backtrack a little bit. And if this is not answering your question, let me know, we think about offer testing in 3 phases. I've been very much describing a company who's ready to scale. There are some instances of a client who has a completely new product to market. They might be bootstrapped. It's, just reinvesting profits back in. Maybe they got some angel money. Maybe it's just, quick loan. So we recommend, 1, testing your offer with your email list. If people who know, like, and trust you from your existing audience and social aren't going to buy from you, Facebook ads is not the right thing, and you probably don't even have a product market fit. So let's make sure that's aligned. Second tier is let's make sure, this is converting via affiliates. This is going to give us another vote of confidence that you have product market fit. And then the third tier is really what I've been emphasizing today, which is more of the, scale mode for an organization. So we really want to make sure that there's product market fit, and you can bypass 1 and 2 if you have the capital and just go straight to ads and figure out, do you have product market fit? But for a lot of companies, it's going to save them a lot of headache and, pissed off conversations with their marketing team if they don't actually have a product market fit and they don't have anything differentiated.
Yeah, don't be that guy that thought it was going to be $1. I don't recommend in any way, shape, or form. For me personally, in my experience, even if it's a short window, you're going to want to test it. You want to test it with people who are already KLT. You're going to want to sit there and just interact with them and see what their reactions are. When we started out and we were doing the scale lab and we were creating the lab reports, we created this very detailed, just books, just had walls of information. And we found out that the information was phenomenal, but we overwhelmed the audience. There was just too many things based on our design. Now, if we had gone to market and pushed this all out and gone nuts, we would have got, we wouldn't have known why. Wouldn't have known why it wasn't going to convert. But because we gave it to an environment of people who actually we enjoyed talking to, and I exposed it to my mastermind, they're like, oh, love the data. It's too much. You fried my brain. I was like, okay, what do we do? They're like, expand it out to 4 or 5 more pages. Don't try and jam everything. And we're like, oh, but I wouldn't have gotten that feedback from a Facebook ad. I wouldn't have gotten that. I would have just known it doesn't work. And I would have known, okay, well, I don't have a product market. I'm SOL. So I think it's really important to go out and reach beyond your friends and family, because they're all lie to you. No, it's a surprise. But go out and reach out and say, hey, this is what I have. This is what's going on. Is it converting? Is this going to generate an income stream for me? And I think those steps. When you're doing this and you're doing this testing, and this is just me kind of finding out, do you have copies or ads or things that are like, hey, we tried this, it didn't work, or examples that I might be able to squeeze out of you down the road? We can put them into the lab report. Just saying.
I'm sure they're in a Google folder somewhere that I don't know how to operate. So they're in our backend system somewhere.
Awesome. I'll reach out to your team and we'll get exact examples of like before and after, and we'll try and jam it into the report to help people out. Okay.
You know what's something?
What do we got?
I'll give one example of some split test of ours that we were wrong about. So we have some clients who can film very high quality produced video. And we told them, let's split test and just take an iPhone and record something. There are instances where the iPhone selfie video actually does better than the highly produced video, as it feels more authentic and you're talking to a friend. I'm not saying that's, all cases, but we had one who her best ads for the longest time were just her under a tree, as it was kind of like a hippie-ish product, just like iPhone selfie video. And it felt like a friend was introducing you to the brand, and it felt more personal versus the highly produced, video and video team and hair and makeup. People in our belief just didn't feel as connected to the CEO and their vision. So that's a test that didn't work for us.
Yeah, I love it because it's those little idiosyncrasies that matter. For example, we were doing, I was working with a client and we were trying to, get better interaction and get better impressions, get people, spend more time. And we changed the titles. We had how you can earn more money, or we added you, the power of you. We then took that and we said, okay, well, we're going to personalize this in a white paper, right? We're going to sit there and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Because at the time I was doing tech. We're like, this is how you need to install it. Maybe you have not done this, or you haven't done this. And we got poor feedback. They hated us. Like, we feel like you're attacking us because you don't think we know how to install printer paper. And we're like, wait, what? So what works over here in the social media world of having how you can make money, or make it a very personalized, like it's a message to you, just like your client did with the cell phone. It felt like you're talking to a friend. That doesn't always work in other environments. So this is why it's so important. You talk about having about 8 tests. It's so important to test and understanding that what might have worked 6 months ago doesn't work anymore. A great example of that is COVID. COVID changed the ballgame. It is what it is. Things do not operate in the same world because the environment has changed. So it isn't. You have to constantly be testing. You got to be constantly talking to someone like an Andrew that's going to help you through that and say, hey, I live and breathe this stuff. This is my world. I love marketing. Bless you guys, and scaling and what you guys do. God bless you guys. It's kind of like when I talk to my accountant and new tax laws comes out. He gets excited about it and he tells me about it. I try my best not to fall asleep in the middle of lunch, but it happens. Hire someone smarter than you. Get out of your way. Understand what worked this month isn't going to work next month, or a little bit more. All right. So when we've got that, we're doing these different tests. We're making it personalized. We're trying these different things. You're testing on your own before you spend all the money on Facebook, and we're going to show some examples of what works and doesn't work. Where do we go from there? What is our next step if we're sitting at home and they want to try something? What is the next thing they can do?
I would say, and I'll bring it back to someone who might be more in the, do I have a product market fit? And then I'll get into, you're ready to scale. So do you have product market fit? I'm going to bring it back again to test your offer via your existing social media, fans and community, your email database. Find some friends who can do some affiliate mailing. One of our clients, he had awesome success with his docu-series, going around to some people in his very specific niche on afterlife communication, and trying to get them to host screenings of his film in a donation-based model. So he did that, rinse and repeat however many times it was, and built up enough data that we were able to go to an organization with a 600,000 person email database with his exact avatar of a person and say, hey, this is what we've done in all these tests. If you mail for us, with 2 or 3 emails, this is the revenue we think could come back to your business with, copy and paste this, mail it out, and you could just be making money like that. I'm oversimplifying this, but that's
No,
how they built it up. And then went to, the mega affiliate partner who then did the mailing for them.
And I love that it was a stepped approach. They didn't just go to the mega affiliate partner and said spray and pray. They were like, okay, I know exactly who my audience is. I know exactly how they respond. I know exactly what words I need to use. I have my offer fleshed out. I know my offer works, which is a huge problem that some people have. You'll drive the people to the site, to the funnel, to whatever it is, or to the person on the phone, and it just won't convert if you haven't perfected that process. Overnight success takes about years. So it takes time to do these things. So I think it's so important. It's going to save you time and it's going to save you money when you're scaling this, to have this data that has been analyzed with a fine-tooth comb, so you know what works. I know it sounds crazy, but when you send messages out, it matters. Not only the text, not only the content, not only the copy, but when it's actually been sent out. Morning, noon, Saturday, Tuesday, all of these things matter when you're scaling. And each one of those, as we talked about before, it's different. It's different based on your niche. It's different based on your offer, and it's different based on your product and market. If it just makes sense, there's so many different little things. And since you've done that for so long, are there certain tests that you're like, you know what, these type of tests or these type of things, we know when in doubt, if the person owning is going to get one type of swing at this and they can only do one or very small swings, do these type of tests first versus these other type of tests, so that we do create that impact and we do create that profit lines for
them. Well, let me bring it back to kind of the phase one report. Is we really want to understand what is the bottleneck to scale. And this can be a lot of different situations, and I'll give you some use cases. And I hope this answers your question in a roundabout way. So we just had a recent client who came on board, and as we were analyzing, why can't they scale? They had a live launch in the fall. They really think they could double it. What's the reason? And a big part of that was simply because they had the wrong person in the right seat, or is that, wrong person in the wrong seat. This person was not right in any scenario. He was a very junior marketer trying to scale a campaign. So it was really in that situation, you just made a bad hire. And if you want to scale, you need to bring in seasoned marketers to take this to the next level. We had a different use case with a client where they just simply weren't willing to test enough creatives. The campaign had plateaued out, which happens when you're scaling in Facebook world, and it can be a lot of different situations. Their target audience, was hit up way too many times with the same creatives. They need to do a lot more testing, and stop outsourcing to Asia for $10 an hour, because we know it's cheap, but it's equally as crappy. So sometimes, yes, exactly. We had another use case of a client from a few years ago where they had an in-house marketer who was the right person in the wrong seat. Different scenarios, that first one. So he was great at copy, email marketing, just overall marketing strategy. And he picked up doing Facebook ads for them just, because he was a marketer. So he got it to $3,000 a month in ad spend and could never break through to the next level. So he delegated out to us, seasoned marketers and marketing agency. And we spent anywhere from 10 to 60-ish per month, depending on, offers and all those things. So they really just needed to get this guy into a zone of genius. And he built the campaign to $3,000, but he wasn't the right person to go from $3,000 to $50,000 per month in ad spend.
I always use the example of the analogy of Tarzan. When you're swinging through the vines, you're holding on to one vine and then you grab another one. Sometimes you got to let go of the one that's really safe and secure, and you got to let it go in order to keep that momentum. And in this case with this marketer, a marketer's not a scaler. Sorry, marketers out there, you're going to try and kill me for that. You're not scalers, and your scalers aren't systems guys. Sorry. And it's important to get out of the way and fix these things, and to understand that what person who got you here isn't going to get you there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with this person. Just as you said, let them sit in their zone of genius when they do these type of things. So this is what it is. What are the things that when you talk about your genius, what are the things that you're like, wow, this is what my agency does better than anybody else. This is our model. This is what really, really, we know the mistakes. We know the things that people are making mistakes for. when you sit there and say, hey, when we show up and we talk to Andrew, holy crap, this is what they do better than anyone else. And this is the stuff that's, you're getting consistent results with. What are the things that you have found that you're like, what? This is why we do what we do. This is the stuff that these are some of the things that, without giving away the special sauce, but the stuff that I get, this is it. We found out that when we put flamingos on babies and make them run around in circles, it just work. Whatever that narrative is.
I would say for us, what we're most well known for is media buying for online education organizations. So it's an organization coming to us who wants to grow and scale their, Facebook, Google, YouTube. We don't really like LinkedIn and TikTok, never had great success, but we know how to operate on those platforms. And their product stack tends to be books to courses to events, certification training programs. What am I missing? Maybe there's one more, but that whole product stack, we'll take on clients who won't be in that vertical from time to time. That's really a game time call with us. We worked with a pro soccer team a few years ago as a lifelong soccer player. I wasn't going to pass that opportunity. I've mentioned some B2B SaaS organizations we've worked with. That's very because I have a few individuals on my team who have a B2B SaaS background, and I know they could come in and deliver in that situation. So really, the clients come to us because they have that scaling problem with their media buying campaigns, and they don't know why they can't go from 3 to 50K per month or whatever that looks like in that situation, or they're at a big launch and they need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you're like, how the heck do we do this? And stop outsourcing to Asia for $10 an hour. Sometimes a premium.
There are some people in Asia that are phenomenal, but like my VAs in the Philippines, and that's kind of that Asian environment. She's phenomenal. I love Christine, or I could possibly tell you, but Christine will tell you, I'm not a Facebook marketer. This is not what I hate. So find the person. Not saying that there's not people who can, but find the person again and be willing to pay for it. Because from what I've found is whenever I tried to go cheap, especially with marketing, it always bites me. So what are some things that if you've got someone, they're like, all right, you know what? I get it. I know I'm going to have to drop a couple bucks to get this done. What are some of the things that I can do now to prepare myself before I get on the call, before I drop XYZ dollars, that I can get my ducks in a row that someone can do before they go, all right, I'm here. What's going on? We already talked about, doing some of this testing in your own network with people already that KLT you. We already talked about doing that. But when we're talking about writing copy or we're talking about doing creatives, are there certain places that you're like, what? I really like these are the people who are doing creative reading. I'd recommend take a look at that. Other than just your competition, these are some of the places that have some really great resources that we can kind of give people who are listening to the podcast, like, okay, I get it. I got to get my ducks in the row to save time before I do swap just on what I do.
Yeah. Let me clarify. I have nothing against talent from Asia. That was not a hate code rant I was going on. I was more so trying to say, don't just take the cheaper route because it's cheap. Just making that disclaimer, nothing against Facebook advertisers, nothing against anyone.
We're going to give out your home address and your home phone number, and we're going to send it to all of Asia, and they're going to come find you. We're going to give them the gate code so that they can get in, and you get to talk to them directly.
So I would say, if you're in the, coaching oriented space with those product stack that I mentioned, I always say, check out what Tony Robbins is doing. I think his team is top of the line in just everything that they do, not only from the virtual conferences they put on, their creatives. I think they're very top notch. What you can also do is go to a website called Facebook Ads Library, which allows you to see all ads run by any Facebook page. So if there are people in your vertical that you want to do some competitor analysis on, go to Facebook Ads Library and they'll be able to show you, everything that they're doing.
Exactly what they're doing. And then those are the ones you create those kind of 8 tests from. You got to test that. Okay, well, this is what Susan's my competition. I really think that she's doing great. You can actually put that up and start working with your team. And then again, when you do find someone who clearly is not from Asia at this point, I'm still sending them your address. You can give and say, hey, these are the people that are in my niche. These are the people that are in my vertical. This is what they're doing. Here, let's talk about it. This is what I've got. And that'll help out. This is what we try to create. And before you start getting in the environment because again, this is, seriously, when you get to this point and you're paying the 5-6 figures in ad spend and you're doing these campaigns that are at that level, you want to make sure you're as effective as possible. And that doesn't, for me, happen at the 5 to 6 figure level one. That happens when you're lower and you're doing these baby tests and you're doing it with people you already know, just like the example I gave earlier. So I know you got to wrap it up and we got to get going here. If there's one thing that you could tell someone, please don't do this, and one thing you could tell, please do this, they're going to be used to that very soon. You got a little one coming, so get used to that. What are the two things in those two divides? And again, mazel tov on having the little. So thank you. Don't do this. Absolutely do this. What are those two things?
Do this, incorporate video into your marketing, whether that's in your advertising campaigns, and your landing page, your email sequences, just more video, the better. The example I gave earlier of the split test between the selfie video and the highly produced video, just know like you can get by with a lot just on your cell phone. So don't do, I'm going to go back.
Earlier.
I was going to go back to the whole unrealistic expectations. The way we create goals with clients is we reverse engineer back. Instead of just, pulling something out of thin air of like $1 CPL leads on a webinar funnel. That makes no sense. That's never going to happen. Or clients who want to have, I was just chatting with someone last week who wanted 40 booked sales meetings per week to go from 0 to 40. And so I was like, okay, that's all great.
Yeah. It's really good to want things. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. All right. Last question, because I know we got to wrap it up here. Is there one book? It doesn't even have to be related to what you're doing. One book you're like, this book absolutely changed my life. I highly recommend it. Is there one book you have?
Charles's book, which I don't know the name of and I've never read. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. I look away for free. That doesn't count.
I was going to go look over here real quick because I have a really good book I want to bring on camera.
Go for it. This, by the way, as you guys can tell, completely unprepared for this. I like doing this. I like dropping random questions for those of you guys who follow. So Andrew was not prepared. So what do you got?
I'm only half of the way through with this. Whoa, you hear a little audio issues there. So I'm only half of the way through with this. It's called Fanatical Prospecting. Because I had such a huge influx of sales meetings I started to book, I put a pause on it. I was like, I've done so much already. I can see I'm not even halfway through. I'm like an eighth of the way through with this book. This is fantastic. It was recommended to me by a friend who's a fractional VP of sales, and a little fire under my butt it was one of those like, oh, I'm a POS. I'm not doing nearly enough of what I need to do. So that was a great book that I'm in the middle of reading.
And so what was the name of the book again?
It is Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb. I was going to say Blunt, but Blount.
Close enough. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew, for jumping on the podcast. We will get all those resources. I will have my team reach out and get some of those trainings for you. So any last things you want to wrap up before we go away? Or just want to say goodbye to the people?
I'll just say goodbye and adios. Shabbat shalom.
That's it for today's episode. Here's the truth. What worked yesterday won't work for tomorrow. And what works for someone else might not work for you. Test everything, measure everything, never stop adapting, and only implement what's proven.